No one tells you this about birthdays after 60, that the ones that you remember aren't the ones where someone threw you a big party. They're the ones where you finally stopped waiting. You gave yourself the thing you'd been talking about and talking yourself out of for years. Here's what I know now about birthdays. Mine have never really been a big deal. I learned to make them not matter on purpose. But this year I turned 62 and something shifted. All those years of maybe someday and it's not a big deal and I don't really need that, they started to feel heavy. Not in a dramatic heavy way, just the weight of things I never let myself have. Let me ask you something. How many times have you talked yourself out of something that you actually wanted? Yeah, me too. For years. So this year, I decided something. I was going to have the birthday I always talked myself out of. Not a party, not a gift, but a week. A week where I only did things that I wanted to do and had, for one reason or another, never let myself do. And I asked my daughter to come along with me, not because I needed someone to make it special, but because some things are just better when someone who knows you is sitting in the passenger seat. So I mapped out a road trip through Alberta. And the simple rule was every stop had to be something I'd be curious about. Something I'd say, that looks cool. Which brings me to Drumheller. If you've never been, Drumheller is this strange, beautiful place in Alberta, Badlands, where the land just opens up. You're driving through the prairies, then suddenly the earth drops away and you're in this otherworldly landscape of striped rocks and strange formations. It looks like another planet, like something ancient just decided to show itself. And I had always wanted to go, always. But it was always a bit too far or a bit too much or, well, maybe next summer. And here's what I know now. Next summer is a lie that we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better about saying no. We started at the Royal Tyrrell Museum, and I need you to understand, I am not a big museum person, or at least I thought I wasn't. But this place is different. It's built right into the Badlands, and the whole first gallery is this long corridor of earth that's been cut open, showing layers of time, millions of years of it. You walk past these enormous dinosaur skeletons, full skeletons, not fragments, and you realize the ground that you've been walking on your whole life has been holding these secrets. There was something about standing there, looking up at the creature that had lived 75 million years ago, that made 62 feel very young. Okay, maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but stay with me. Then we went to the hoodoos, and I need to describe these because photos don't really capture it. They're these enormous towering rock pillars, 15 to 20 feet tall, with massive capstones balancing on top like hats. They're just standing in the middle of the Badlands, like the earth decided to sculpt something just because it could. The wind had been shaping them for thousands of years. We hiked the trails around them, nothing hardcore of course, just those gentle paths that wind through the Badlands where every turn looks like a different painting. And we searched for dinosaur bones, not in an organized, guided tour away, just walking, scanning the ground, hoping to spot something, like two kids on a treasure hunt. We didn't find any bones that day, but we found something better. The silly, giddy feeling of looking for something just to look for it. No goal, no outcome, just curiosity. The next morning, we woke up and thought, okay, what else does this place have? The answer was the giant T-Rex dinosaur in the middle of downtown. I'm not exaggerating. Drumheller has this enormous T-Rex. I mean enormous, like almost 90 feet tall, just standing there in the middle of the town center, like it belongs there. Like one day it just walked out of the badlands and decided to stay. No, I didn't climb it. I'm too scared of heights to do that. And then we were off to see Alberta's smallest church. It's called St. Anne's Catholic Church. And it sits out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by nothing but sky and badlands. It seats 6 people. The whole building is maybe the size of a garden shed, but it's a real church. Pews, altar, stained glass, everything. And there was something about stepping inside it, this tiny, quiet, sacred space, that sort of stopped me. Not in a religious way, in a presence way. Like the building was saying, you don't need a cathedral. You don't need a big stage. You just need to show up. Be here. Be small. Be quiet. That little church might have been one of my favorite stops in the whole trip. And I never would have found it if I hadn't let myself wander. And then we hiked. Again. Still looking for dinosaur bones. Let me try to describe these badland hills to you, because hills isn't the right word. They're more like sculptures. The rain and wind have carved them into these strange, rounded formations. Some of them are smooth, striped in layers of color, browns, grays, and this pale, almost white that catches the sun. Others are jagged, broken, like something cracked them open from inside. And when you climb them, and we climb them, you realize they're not solid. The rock is soft, crumbly. You can break a piece off with your hands. This ground that looks so permanent, so ancient, is actually fragile, always changing, always being reshaped by something it can't control. And maybe that's what I was thinking about, standing on top of one of those hills with the wind in my face and my daughter somewhere below me laughing at how steep this climb was. That the landscape of our life doesn't have to stay the shape it always has been. That the things that look permanent, your habits, your fears, your I could never do that, they're softer than we think. Something is always reshaping them. The question is whether you're going to let it be time and weather, or whether you're going to get in there with your own hands. We still didn't find any dinosaur bones, but standing on top of the Badland Hills, looking out at the landscapes that's been reinventing itself for millions of years, I thought, yeah, I think I'm in the right place. 2 days in Drumheller, and I didn't feel like the woman turning 62. I felt like a woman who had finally stopped apologizing for wanting things. And this brings me to Edmonton. I had always been a person who loves handmade things and thinks, I wish I could do that. Rings, stained glass, pottery. I would see them at craft fairs and feel this little pull, and then immediately talk myself out of it. I'm not crafty enough. I wouldn't be good at it. So I booked myself a silversmithing class, and I made a ring. Now, I need you to picture this. You walk into this small studio. There are a few workbenches, each one set with a little torch and tools. And the instructor puts this piece of silver in front of you and says, we're going to make a ring out of it. And you think, nope, I don't think so. It's a bent piece of metal. But when you heat it and you hammer it and you bend it slowly around the mandrel, and the metal starts to curve and close in on itself, and you solder the seam, which is terrifying because you're using a real torch, real fire, and suddenly there it is, a circle, a ring, something that didn't exist an hour ago. I kept looking at that ring on my finger, turning my hand, watching it catch the light, and I thought, how many other things in my life have I talked myself out of creating? Not just objects, experiences, relationships, moments. Because I decided ahead of time that I wouldn't be good enough. The next day, we took a mosaic tile lamp class. And I'll be honest, I was probably a little worse at it than making the ring. Which brings me to our last night on our week-long trip. We stayed at a geodome, and I know that might sound simple. It's just a place to sleep, right? But I have wanted to stay in a geodome for years. I'd see them online, these round, transparent structures sitting in the middle of forests and deserts, the night sky pouring in through the curved ceiling and walls, and I would think, that looks so magical. I booked it, and I didn't tell my daughter ahead of time. I wanted it to be a surprise. And here's what it's actually like. You walk in, and the ceiling is curved, not flat, curved. And the whole thing is this warm, glowing space with soft light and blankets, and this feeling of being held, like the structure is wrapping itself around you. And at night, when the lights go off, you can see the sky. We spent the evening doing diamond art, another craft I'd never tried before. That night, laying in the dome with the sky above me, I realized something. This trip wasn't about Drumheller, or about silversmithing, or even the geodome. It was about proving to myself that I could stop talking myself out of my own life. That I could want something and then actually do it. That 62 isn't too late, and maybe someday can become right now, if you let it. And here's something else. People will let you down in your life. They will. But I wouldn't do that to myself anymore. I won't let myself down. Not after everything it took for me to get here. And here's the truth I want to leave you with. You don't have to wait for a birthday. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait for someone to notice that you've been shrinking yourself to fit into a life that's so much smaller than the one that you actually want. You just have to stop saying someday and start saying this time. I would love to know, what's something that you've been talking yourself out of? Leave it in the comments. I would love to hear your story. And if this video resonated, hit that subscribe button, because I'm going to keep having these conversations that I wish somebody would have had with me sooner. Thank you for being here, and I will catch you on the next one. Go have a great day.